Well, hey there, Luskos. I'm your host, Levi.
I'm Jennie.
And we are glad that you're here for another podcast.
We're so glad.
Look at us go.
We just keep going.
Jennie, how's your day been going?
It's been great. Really good.
You've been hitting the books all day.
I have been studying.
Yep.
I'm getting ready for a message.
Pumping up those spiritual weights. You grab your big Bibles, one in each hand. You got my study Bible, got my concordance over here.
Yeah, I do actually have some big Bibles.
Yeah, you got a big Flourish event coming up.
Yeah. It's November 17th, and it's for the ladies, and I'm really excited about it. Yeah. 6:30.
Ooh, I hit the high note. You hear that?
Yes.
Ladies. It didn't crack.
No.
Sometimes it cracks. It didn't today. So yeah, you every year. I mean, how many years have you been doing this?
I think this is the 5th year.
Every year,
Fourth year?
You put together a message. Women gather in homes, churches around the country. They get to hear your word. They get to hopefully invite some gals over.
Yeah.
You call them flourish nights because that's kind of like your big word. You love that word.
My big word. I love flourish.
Yeah, it comes from scripture.
Yeah. Well, Psalm 92 talks about when you're planted in the house of the Lord, you flourish in the courts of our God. And so I just love the idea of we as women, I mean, obviously men flourish too. It's kind of a flowery word,
sometimes.
But men flourish.
Yeah, they do.
But I just love the thought of women who are planted in the house of the Lord flourishing.
I love that. And you've been doing these nights, and people can get information about how they can have their own flourish night.
Yeah, you could host your own. You could get to
where would they go? JennieLusko.com?
Freshlife.church.
Freshlife.church. Let me Google that for you.
Flourish.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, that's awesome. Excuse me. And we're excited because we've been gearing up for a long time. Finally, here in November, we've reached the month of our tour, going on this Christmas tour, The Wonder of Advent, with Lisa Harper and with Fresh Life Worship. We're going to be all over Texas, in the near Houston, near San Antonio. We're going to be in as well North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia area, Hiram. We got Tennessee. The tour kicks off in Tennessee. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be ending in Alabama, Birmingham, and then Florida in Windermere, which is near Orlando, and then Bradenton. So these are going to be awesome nights. So you can get information on how you can come.
You should come.
Adore him. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're hitting the road, Jack. Don't you come back. But I'm excited about those nights because, and I've been, today I've been saying the same thing, kind of studying, preparing my heart, just getting so excited because I think Christmas time, it's either you have people who are kind of like, get away Christmas because of like the painful associations, or they don't like what culture's done to it, but instead stripping all that back and saying, hey, let's not let our pain or people hijacking Christmas keep us from Advent, which is this season of moving towards Christ coming.
Yeah.
And not just coming as he came into the world at Christmas, and not just coming like he's going to come at the second Advent, the return of Jesus, but coming into our situation.
Yeah.
Coming into our homes, coming into our grief.
Welcoming him in.
Yeah, right. We all have reasons to feel like, but God wants us to experience true Christmas joy. And that's our hope, that people could recapture the wonder of Advent.
Yeah.
Excited to preach. Excited to hear Lisa talk. Excited to hear, I'm excited to laugh. That woman makes me laugh like nobody else. It's hilarious. And then Fresh Life Worship as you yawn. So good stuff is coming, and we're thrilled about that. I love to be able to bring people into the process, like prepping, working. My favorite little tidbit I'm excited about is, you like that tidbit? Tidbit.
Bits of tid.
Well, it's just, there was such a gap in between the Old and New Testament, these silent years between Malachi and Matthew. And they thought he wasn't coming. People lost hope, and that's how you might feel right now. Like, where's Jesus? He's coming. And Galatians 4:4 says, in the fullness of time he came. So what felt like this impossible chasm was just God preparing the New Testament. Hello.
The fullness of time.
God's got something new for you, something full for you. Jesus wants to come riding into your situation. So
yeah,
very good.
Love it.
I had a good run today.
Yeah, how many miles?
6.
Wow.
Thanks for asking.
Good job.
Got a flex. I should have gone one more, then I would have not stopped on 7.
6.
No, if I would have done one more, I would have not stopped on 6 and got to 7.
Oh.
I said that wrong.
Yeah, it's fine.
It is what it is. We're going to cut that out. No, we're not. We're leaving it. This is real, baby. And then, yeah, we're thrilled that today we have Chris Brown on the podcast.
Ooh, it's a good one.
We've been trying for a minute, maybe longer.
We finally caught him.
Elevation worship is facts, Jennie. one of the greatest worship movements ever that I in my lifetime,
Honestly,
our lifetimes.
Yeah, our lifetime.
So good. What's your favorite elevation worship song?
I mean, I love Lion.
It's a good one.
I love Graves into Gardens.
What about Come to the Altar?
I love Oh Come to the
What
Altar.
about Do It Again?
I do love Do It Again.
There Is a Cloud.
I do love that. I also love Here Is in Heaven. Available is one of my favorites.
Very good. They have so many good songs. Mm-hmm. And Chris Brown has had his hand on just about all those that we mentioned. Mm-hmm. And then they have this new one, Jehovah. That's very good.
Yeah.
Very good song. What's that new one? Promises? Oh, Praise
something.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Anyhow, Chris and his wife Beth have become friends of ours over the years. We talk about that, kind of our friendship origin story. We talk about what for him it's like writing these songs, a little bit of the, fly in the room process on the process, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
And just he's the real deal. Mm-hmm. Such a humble heart.
So kind.
Glad to be there. Glad to be in the room.
Yeah.
Buoyant. I would say there's no sense of like jaded or cynicism. It's just really still wide-eyed with wonder.
Yeah.
Very fun. And he talks about dun, getting into CrossFit. Controversial.
Intriguing.
Yeah. So I didn't see that coming. I know there are still people doing all that, but I didn't know he was going to go over the dark side.
It's not as in your face these days.
Yeah. People have become a little more chill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope every single person out there is having a great day. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about you. You're having a great day. We see you over there listening to this podcast. Thanks for doing that.
They're in the corner or something.
No, I'm just saying thanks. I hope you know you're doing better than you think you are. God's got a plan for you.
Amen.
Even you putting this podcast on, you could have done anything. But here you are, turning it into a couple people who love Jesus and a podcast that's going to build your faith up. So I hope that encourages you. You did something already strong and great today.
It's good, babe.
You could have been watching The Walking Dead, seeing people eat zombies.
Oh,
but here you are, listening to
opposite.
Hey, it's the Luskos. And that's an awesome thing. I hope it deposits something into your spirit. We were encouraged from this conversation, and we hope this blesses you. But enjoy our conversation with our friend, Chris Brown. Chris, we just love you. We're grateful you come spend some time with us, bro.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Chris.
It really means a lot. We just got to see you lead worship. I was so sad we didn't get to hug. We had a moment, though I think our eyes locked very briefly.
We did. It was the best, too, because I locked eyes as I was seeing you for the first time. I was like, they're here.
Aww.
I know. You don't ever want to do that to a worship leader or anybody who's performing in any meaningful capacity where like you have a moment that takes them away from their actual moment they're having with the Lord and the Lord's people. Nice. But it is fun to distract people sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
And we're hat twinsies, which if you're listening and not watching, we're both wearing reflect hats that are amazing.
Very
They're
plush.
Like corduroy.
You get that thick corduroy weave on the bill as well.
And
it's a good looking hat.
Orangey, peachy color on green.
So
it's just wonderful.
Great colors.
Holly Furtick and the entire Reflect team.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You should pop over to YouTube and see the hats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Expand on Spotify. It just brings the video in line. That's a neat trick. How you're just listening to music, but then it's like, gotcha, it's actually video. Way to go, Spotify.
I appreciate your hat too, Levi.
Thank you. I picked it out with love and care. I said, this is my Chris Brown hat. I had another hat. I said, no, thank you. Get thee behind me, Satan. And then I said, this is the hat I will interview Chris Brown in because it'll bring all of the, Hail, Hail, Lion of Judah vibes to the room.
It's so good.
Except I looked and it was a lamb. So gotcha.
Never saw it coming, did you?
Don't you love a good Revelation 5 joke? That song, though, it's never too early in the morning to get apocalyptic.
Oh, my God.
I'll never forget the first time I heard that song. Pastor Stephen played it for me in his car parked in his garage, and we just sat there. And I was like, oh, my.
What is happening? What is this?
Gosh. Which
what a
is
funny sentence.
How I feel every time he plays a song for me. I remember the first time he played Rattle for me. He and I were just reminiscing about the first time he played me the roughest demo scratch track for Graves into Gardens.
Oh yeah.
And we was actually at a Reflect night, and it was like, okay, I felt all the chills that the whole world would feel. Now you've done it in arenas around the world, and everybody's jammed out to Graves. And it's probably one of those tracks that can actually make it onto a workout playlist. You know, it's rare that a worship song can do that, but man, even in that form,
Lion, I really was like, here's the thing. When we recorded it for the like at that night of worship, it was fantastic. Everything you could hope for, dream that a song would be. Maybe 2 weeks later, we did it Sunday morning, 9:30.
No.
It was more like we offended them by even bothering to sing something that was just loud and roaring at 9:30.
Wow.
And summoning their godly rage, their righteous indignation.
And so maybe I tried it one more time on Sunday morning, but I kind of think that may have been the only time ever it's been on Sunday morning.
No way.
On Elevation nights in an arena, it was like, that's where it was meant to go.
They said, yes, please, may I have another heaping portion of the good ends.
It has been kind of interesting, like the songs that have come the last few years. For years prior, it was like all of these songs fit the category of, or need to fit the category of like going on Sunday morning. They're meant to be a church song. Yeah. And then we've had such different ones come in the last few years. It's like, well, that's going to be awesome if God keeps giving us a chance to do elevation nights and arenas. It's not so awesome on Sunday morning, but that's cool. We got a little bit of both. So.
Wow.
That's interesting though, to be writing songs for church, but also for an arena. Like, I don't know, because I feel like your guys' albums are so unique and so like powerful, and there are those moments in church that are like, this song fits this moment, but then with arenas it's just a different thing. So that must be kind of tricky as you're writing, or you just write what you write and then see what happens and
write whatever
so crazy.
We write.
Yeah,
like there's honestly zero thought about like this is for an arena. Absolutely not. Like Might Get Loud would also fit that. We did it maybe one tour, maybe two, but it's like, that's, the people will also be offended on Sunday morning if that we did that one a little bit more than Lion. But it was just like, let's have fun and let's be unapologetic about what we're writing and the style of the song and what we want to say in the song, and we'll figure out where it fits later. And if it just ends up on an album for a hopefully good listening experience, amazing. I mean, that's like 0.00001% of the world that would ever get to record a song that someone would, value enough to actually listen to that song. So it's like the craziest privilege anyway, that people are paying attention. God's given us songs that actually impact people. So, it's not a bad thing if a song doesn't make it to Sunday morning. Totally. But we still felt like, it deserves to be on the album.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good perspective.
There's a safety in that keeps you and protects you from overthinking and the posture of grandeur. Like, hey, we're just trying to write something true, something we believe, something that moves us, something that, is scaled down. Cause I like that, even just knowing you enough to know somewhat of the process, it's not the bigness of it. It's the purity. It's the truth. It's these lyrics. This is helpful. It's this music moves me in some way. And so now, like, letting that be what it is as it goes out, because God gets to breathe on what he breathes on, doesn't breathe on what he doesn't breathe on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just happy, honestly, 16 years in at Elevation, I'm just happy to still love the church, not just Elevation Church, but,
the
like
church.
Capital C Church. I think to me, that's that's success, and that's such a win that now our 13-year-old, 10-year-old are like growing up, and their parents love the church and love what God's doing through the church here and elsewhere. And they're seeing that, and they're naturally adopting that, perspective as well. And my parents did a great job of raising me to see that in a totally different, environment. There's 100 people in our church in a small town.
Is this South Carolina? Is that where your upbringing was?
Yep. In the bottom part of South Carolina, near this place called Hampton. But yeah, I mean, I think they did a fantastic job. That by the time I was a teenager, 17 years old, I was like, I really want to serve in local church ministry. So we'll see what happens. And so here we are 16 years later into Elevation, and still have such a passion for. So it totally, Jennie and Levi both, like what you're saying about the songs, whether they make it to an arena or albums or whatever. It's like, that is part of the mission. And we feel like that's something, of course, God's called us to do, but it's still, to me, it's like the greatest bonus, biggest cherry on top. It's not like, certainly not why I showed up. There was, that wasn't there.
Right.
16 years ago.
Sure. But the seeds of it were there. The dream of it was there, right? The sense or pull, or kind of just, God's got this on my life. I'm right.
Yep.
And where did that come from? How did music kind of begin for you? Were you forced into piano lessons as a kid?
Yeah, I was, but both my parents were musical. My dad was the music pastor. My mom played the organ. I mean, like family gatherings at Christmas at my grandparents' house, it was, my mom had 4 other siblings, and literally all of them are musical. There's an upright piano in grandparents' house, and it's like the movie, like where everybody's around the piano, somebody's on the piano bench, and they're taking turns playing different Christmas songs, and we're all singing.
I love that.
Oh.
That's so amazing.
It's not just something that happens in movies. That was real. That's a thing.
It was in my upbringing. So yeah, music's just always been a part of me, and it's, it's fun, like with kids now, getting to just drench them with like Joa. I mean, since he's been young, maybe younger than he should have been, I've just loved listening to albums with him, like Weezer, Foo Fighters, exposing him to like just songs that I loved as a teenager, and catching him up on it. But then, I mean, yeah, they're both in piano lessons. Joa almost has all of Bohemian Rhapsody, like memorized on piano. And that's a long song, and it's complicated. I can't play that song.
Memorized.
Wow.
That's a big deal.
Memorized, yeah.
Sheesh.
Honestly, it's all ear for him. He can't. We tried for a few years to get him to read music and did that whole method of teaching. He wasn't having it.
Wow, that's a gift.
But let him hear it, and he'll find his way through it.
He's got it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and he plays drums, and Adelaide's a little singer, and so. And Beth, that's how Beth and I met in college, was singing on the worship team. So we did that for 4 years through college.
Gosh, that's so special.
And did you continue with lessons like classically, or did you kind of find your way, and then once you found it, just like your son, more go your route?
I gave up piano, I don't know, or my parents actually, I think, just got so frustrated with me not practicing. They let me stop at 9 or 10. Probably started when I was 6 or something.
Dang.
And then 13, fell in love with guitar. And then I went to college to study music. So I got a music degree in college, and then was like, oh my gosh, why did I ever give up piano? Because piano now is like my favorite instrument, but I had to learn it, again. So
piano's your favorite, but you mostly play guitar when you lead. Do you ever play piano when you lead?
No, I'm not good at piano.
Oh, but it's your favorite instrument.
It is. I mean, I write mostly on piano.
Oh, okay.
I can hear melodies better on a piano. I'm not great at guitar either. So I'm just like, I'm good enough to get stuff out, but I love it all.
That's so good. When was the first time you wrote a song that you can recall? Was it very young or like?
All right. So this is kind of layered right here, and I don't mean for it to be all existential. But the first memory I have, my dad had this big Ovation guitar, which is this like classical guitar that has this big giant rounded back. I say that because it's like at probably 12 or something, maybe 11. It's massive. It's as big as me. But I picked it up for the first time, and I didn't know any chords. It was right before he started teaching me chords, and maybe he was trying at this point. Regardless, I just took all 6 strings on the guitar without any chord shapes in my left hand, and I made a little song out of, arranging the strings in different orders.
Wow.
So in my mind, I mapped out like a verse and a chorus with this melody. And then I was so excited. I brought it to my dad, and this is totally putting my dad on blast. And I've told him, and he is the absolute best. But I brought it to my dad, and I was like, "Listen, I wrote a song," and I'm again no chord shapes. It's just, and he sweetly, not in a condescending way, but sweetly is like, "Oh, bud, that's not a song."
Oh no.
And it crushed me.
Oh.
I mean, crushed, because I was like, yeah, I mean, for obvious reasons, I thought I had written a song. And then at that point, I think I in my mind, there's something embedded, or at least was for quite some time, that I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do with the guitar. Is I need to start writing songs almost to kind of prove something.
Do you ever
Wow.
let him hold your Grammy? Just curious, asking for a friend.
Wow, Levi.
Just like, Dad, I'm going to polish it. Do you want to come over before or after I polish my Grammy?
I have such a weird, complicated relationship with awards.
I see.
It's so weird.
Torrin was telling us that he co-writes with Lorna sometimes. That recently they hadn't done it in a while, and that sometimes when she'll like say that's not good or something like that, he'll go to the other room and bring some of his awards out. Just
that is
like
what Torrin would do.
It's
Yeah,
very
right?
the way he told the story was very funny. Okay, so. But and actually that's a funny that happened, because I feel like there's actually a thread with a lot of people who end up going to do something like that along the way there is some sort of barrier. There is some sort of moment like that. Like our friend Jenna Claire played the lead of Glinda Goodwitch in Wicked, but the first time she went to see it on Broadway, she turned to her dad. She was only a little girl, and she said, "Dad, I'm going to play Glinda Goodwitch one day." And her dad turned to her and said, "You think that, and so does every little girl in this entire theater."
Oh,
but she said it kind of was a good thing because it helped her to motivate her. And I have a moment like that in my life. I had first the dream of writing a book after Lindy went to heaven that I felt like it was a calling. And when I first talked to an agent who ended up becoming my agent, he said, "Listen," and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Every parent in the world who loses a child thinks that they're going to be the next Johnny Erickson Tada and write the suffering book for our generation. And it's just part of the grieving process. So you just need to kind of move through that." And it was obviously hard to hear. I wouldn't advocate necessarily such brutal force, but I did appreciate a little bit of a reality check on how much is this just my spinning my wheels in grief, and how much of this is genuinely a calling from God, So you think it hit you in that regard, or is it just genuinely traumatic childhood moments?
I've thought about it so much through the years. Like, I've referenced that in my memory. I think it had to have played a part in what I wound up feeling driven by or passionate about. But I mean, at that time, it was just like, oh, that really stung, because I thought I had written a song. And in my mind, I stand by it. I wrote a song.
Yeah.
You sure did.
Yeah, you did.
But I mean, honestly, my dad is 100% the best. It was just one of those moments. But also, you know what kills me is thinking about like, I'm going to have moments like that I won't be thinking about. And I'll say something like that to my kids and it'll crush them. Not because I'm meaning to, not because my dad didn't mean anything by it other than like what, but it like, I get so freaked out sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say that one day they'll be in therapy about?
Oh my gosh.
I have no memory of it.
That being true, of course, and we do need to be mindful of that. There is also something to be said for your dad not being a helicopter factory creating snowflakes. Like there is something to be said for the good of a little bit of hey man, like keep working.
Tough love.
It will be good, but obviously I'm not advocating for any kind of, mean parenting, but to some degree we can over fear, that we end up creating soft, oh, that was so good. It was so good. It's the best little Chrissy. That song's going to the opera, like the Grand Ole Opry. You should take it tomorrow, like unrealistic. Every parent whose kid plays football is going to now play for, Notre Dame or something like that.
Grandparents are for, right?
Yes.
Grandparents can do that.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah. But not parents.
Okay. So then when was the first time then, if we can flash forward in your mind's eye to the first time you did write a song and that there was genuinely, as you look on it, something of God's spirit on that song? Something was like, oh, wow, that may not be the best song ever, but that was a good song. I'm proud of that song.
There were probably some in college that they weren't worship songs. I didn't know how to write a worship song then, but there were some. I would do little coffee houses, singer-songwriter stuff, and I had moments where like, oh, this song, people would say this is my, this song really means a lot to me, whatever. Give Me Faith, I guess, Once at Elevation would be the first song that felt like, oh, that has like a life beyond anything that I kind of created. It was the first realization. It's like, oh, there's something more and magical, if you will, that can happen with music and with a song that we all can relate to. We all have songs that, of course, we love, but from the perspective of being a songwriter, it was the first one that I was like, I didn't imagine, the song, actually meaning that much to people. I didn't know it would do that. I have no idea why it's connecting the way it's connecting. And I still feel like that about a lot of songs. I have no idea why that's the one. I mean, yeah, I can have ideas here and there of like, this is special and have had those, but a lot of songs, like, there's just something magical that can happen that gives it a life, outside of that bridge. I feel like that's how our relationship started.
Yeah.
Let's stop. And you said, Give Me Faith. I have it written down in my notes to talk to you about, because that song meant so much more to me than a song, than a song. And if anyone listening to this now, you're not, I don't want to throw shade, but you're a little late to the Elevation worship party. Welcome. Glad you're here. But go back and listen to Give Me Faith. That song is superb. The bridge, especially. I may be weak, but your spirit's strong in me. I mean, that song has carried us specifically through some incredibly dark moments. Yeah. I read about that song in the book that my agent said shouldn't exist as being a Cue the Eagle song. A song where, like Isaiah 40, we can summon supernatural power. And I mean, as a father who's literally pounded the ground at my daughter's grave, asking for God to give me strength in a moment of disbelief of everything that I believe, but then looking up to the sky, and as I'm literally singing lyrics to that song, seeing bald eagles circle the graveyard, and having like some of the most out of body, moments ever with that worship song sustaining us. I mean, so thanks for pushing on and getting to that song. I mean, that is in the word magical is a perfect word to describe that.
Yeah. I think it was probably a text that I got from you years and years ago with you letting me know that, or maybe we actually were in person for the first time. But regardless, that's a perfect example of me kind of being in disbelief of like, wait, what song? Because it's like, what happened, right? That bridge came when all the power in our 900 square foot house, the first house we bought in Charlotte, went out for whatever reason. And we didn't have kids. Beth left to go get candles or something.
Wow.
And it had been out for a couple hours, and we had just gotten her grandma's piano and rolled it into this house, and it was pitch black dark, literally, except for maybe a street light or something.
Wow.
And the bridge just came out. But truthfully, it was, we were a few years into Elevation, and I had all kinds of things going on in my head about the pace of the church growing. Am I qualified to help be a part of building what needs to be built here? But that was kind of internal, and it wasn't a super focused moment of like thinking about that stuff as much as just letting something kind of come through in that moment. And then it shaped up a few weeks later, and the whole thing was built around this series that Pastor was going to preach called Give Me Faith.
Wow.
But fast forward and see what God can did with the song. And most impactfully for me, hearing that from you guys and knowing what it meant and how it was there for you during that season is one of the greatest, I think, stories for me of how a song is connected with.
Wow. Well, yeah. And then singing it as a church corporately together, like we would sing that a lot. Actually.
Yeah.
And in my little spot in the front row after Lenny went to heaven, singing, like I remember even right now singing that song with the church, just a puddle of tears right in front of me, and just so much comfort, so much healing for me personally through singing that song with the church. It's making me want to sing it again. We need to put that back in there
right now.
Right now, do it.
Do it.
It's so
right now
in church. Add it to the list.
Well, that's amazing. So
but thank you
for that moment. I love that. Love the power and the going out and the candles, and that's a perfect picture of how we turn off the dark. That life and enemy hands us something, and we get to choose to light a candle. You brought up Beth. Your wife's amazing. I wish she was here with us. We'll have to do a double date
Listen,
edition.
she sends her love, but I asked her as recently as this morning, are you sure you can't hop on? She loves being in the background,
which is a perfect picture of your wonderful wife.
I know.
She's amazing. She shines from the shadows.
She does.
I have been feverishly in the same way trying to get her on his list. I'm bound and determined for when she does make her worldwide debut.
Let's go.
That it's on this podcast. That's all I ask.
Yes.
So when she says uncle and caves to the clamoring of the world that wants time with her, it has to be here first. And
we're gonna have to get her. We're gonna have to get her out of her hunter boots, and she's probably spraying off chicken poop from our driveway right now, or putting water in their thing, because that's her love language. She's
oh my gosh.
Like we had some friends give us the coop for our chickens, but she was bound and determined, for the first time ever, to build the chicken run that extends from the coop.
Which is like a long ramp, right?
No, it's there is a ramp that goes up into the coop, but the run is like basically where they can, in the morning, the door. We have a little solar powered door that opens from the coop
Wow.
at sunrise, and they'll all go out into this fenced in area, which she built.
That's the run, like a dog run, but it's a chicken run.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
And so they can be out there before we get up and get out there and then open the door, and then they kind of just roam wherever on in our yard all day. But she built that whole thing by herself, and she loves it. She's named them all. I can't remember all their names, but
don't you have 11?
We have 11. We have 11. She named them after her grandma and her grandma's friends. We got Annie Carolyn.
That's
Annie
amazing.
Myrtle,
oh my God.
Betty.
Can she like set them straight, all 11 of them, like the names?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, that makes me love her
Dr.
even more.
Doolittle.
Truly.
She doesn't need to take off her hunter boots to come on. We welcome boots on this podcast.
Do.
Yeah, you're right.
We even welcome chickens on this podcast. You know, we would even settle for a micro mini cow, which does need some explanation because I've lived in Montana for almost 17 years and I never heard of a micro cow, man.
Dude. Do y'all ever throw up pictures on like,
yeah.
I have to send you.
We can Google it right now. Can we Google micro mini cow? Would that come up?
Please do. They're
wow.
adorable.
Oh my gosh.
It seems like an abomination, Chris.
No.
Wait.
Listen, I don't know how they begun getting breeded, so I can't answer that. Yeah. But they're so cute.
Is this how sliders come about?
I think so.
Very small hamburgers.
So what's the purpose of these? Do they stay this size?
It's got to be a pet.
Yeah.
And it's just a pet.
It's just a pet. I mean, you can get a dairy cow and it can provide milk.
Very, very small quantities. Would this be an indoor cow or an outdoor cow?
Not for us. Some people literally have them inside.
Gallivanting around the house.
In their houses.
It doesn't seem real. They look like dogs.
I know. They really get to the size of kind of like a Great Dane as far as height.
Wow.
And then they're just wider. But I mean,
so is this naturally occurring or is this something that was bred?
No, I'm believing it's naturally occurring. There's a farm. There's a farm 2 hours from us though that has them, and we're looking at it. But that's my idea. Beth is a little hesitant because it means we're going to have to build a fence around.
It seems like she's up for the challenge. She built a run.
But then the other night she was like, all right. So if we do get one, it's going to need a friend. So we either have to get two or we have to get a miniature horse or a pony. Dead serious.
That's amazing.
Seems right. Well, what if it was an unlikely friendship? You know, like the way that like some rhinos have a bird and some sharks have a little fish. What if the mini cow needed something like really bizarre, like a monitor lizard or something like that? Like it could only be friends with like equal and opposite reactions.
It's a children's book in the making.
It does feel that way.
It really is like the little blue truck situation.
Man. Okay, so you and Beth met on the worship team. Love at first sight, long dating. How did the Brown love story go down?
We dated sophomore year. The first half of junior year, I broke up with her because God told me to. Christian college campus. And we didn't date for a year. Didn't really speak for a year, which was really awkward since we still sang together on the worship team.
Oh wow.
And then God told me to
he untold you.
Yeah, he untold me.
The God that changes his mind not changed his mind.
Oh, that's good.
Or perhaps you surrendering Isaac on the altar had the bones awaken.
Yeah. In my 20-year-old mind, that's the way I saw it. Regardless, we had a break for about a year in there, and then she was willing to give me another shot. And 6 months later, we were, I believe, married.
Wow. This was a quick engagement.
I came in hot for the second round. I was like, you know what? I'm not playing around. I mean it.
You were earnest.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Very good. And now, how many years married? You guys just had a pretty significant milestone, right?
Well, 18. So we've been married. We're coming up on another significant. 15 was in 2020. So, but yeah, we planned a trip to Italy in 2020, and we finally made good on that.
Okay, that was on my list as well.
Yeah, for 15. We were going to do 15.
It's funny.
Really?
We planned Italy for 15, didn't get there, and still have not gone there. So, but we are getting there
on our way
by God's grace in 2024. So that's the plan. So I do need to pump you for details. Do tell, what was the high points of Italy? What blew your mind? What blew your hair back?
Honestly, I loved Rome, which was we went to Rome and spent 5 days there, and then 5 days on Amalfi Coast. And I thought, well, that's going to be an easy win. Like Amalfi is going to be awesome. And I loved Rome because it's all the fast pace of a big metro city. There's no lanes. Everything's chaos in the streets. But then like mealtime is sacred. And we would everything shut down. You couldn't find a reservation after lunch, from maybe 3:30 to 7:30. The first dinner reservation you're going to find is 7:30 because they're closed. And then when they open up at 7:30, and we eat so early here, we're 5:30 dinner time for us. So we were on the way when our travel agent told us hey, you're not going to find a reservation before 7:30. Oh my God, we're so. But then we sat and we were at dinner for 3 hours, and it didn't feel like we had been there an hour. It was awesome. And honestly, the wait staff they're on salary. So there's not this culture of needing to turn the table over for to get more tips in. So it's designed culturally just you're here. They take their time, bringing food to the table, but we had an easy time amalgamating. We were in.
Wow.
We could get used to this.
Wow. That's amazing.
So,
that just sounds wonderful.
Did you do, obviously, if you're in Rome 5 days, you probably did some touring and some just kind of more trying to pretend you're a local wandering around?
Oh, yeah. Sorry for the history buff.
I'm equally impressed by either. I love the thought of you just on a Vespa cruising around, but also going to sites.
No, I love how, your love for history and sites is insane, and I love it so much. But we did a day at the Colosseum, and then some surrounding areas, and then we went to the Vatican City, Sistine Chapel.
Oof. Dang. Wow.
And of those, which was your favorite? Or I know that's a really mean question for anything. Which of your kids do you love the most? Which of your songs do you like the most? Right, all the things, but
a lot in the Vatican City for art reasons was truly breathtaking, as you could imagine, and probably couldn't spend enough time there, even though you kind of have to move along. But I did not know the Colosseum was built in I don't think I misheard this, so fact check me. Colosseum was built in 8 years or something.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that does seem like a rush.
Wow.
No, that's how
I'm saying it's so big. It seems like they would take longer. There's a church in Barcelona that has been being built for 100 years. It still isn't done. And there's been 3 architects that have superseded it, and they all died. So, something like the Colosseum, if you said 30 years, I'd have been yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, way back then, it was built in no time. And so, you're standing on ruins, and for the most part, you don't see all the levels and everything where they kept the gladiators and kept the animals, but they were able to show you where they would come up, and just hearing wild stories about the most the emperor or the most important politicians would sit initially on this front row, but to watch the fights, and literally lions are right there, or they're bringing elephants, and people just dying because there was no, there's no borders or anything from like the floor that they're fighting on, and they didn't, I guess, know any better or have forethought that like, yeah, these are wild animals that were enraging here for entertainment. So they would just come and wipe out the front row. And but I mean, yeah, very, very cool to obviously be in a place so old with so much history.
Oh,
And
wow.
favorite meal? Is there one that you were like, I got to come back for this? I got or this item?
I mean, not a particular dish. I don't think I had one single bad pasta dish though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was all fresh. It was all so good.
People rave about the coffee as well. Like someone told me that they had like a coffee out of a vending machine at the Coliseum, and it was like better than most coffees you'd get in America.
Dang.
All right. I don't want to disappoint you. I assumed the same thing. But the coffee culture there is like they go in, order standing up at the bar, knock an espresso back real quick, and they're on their way. So I had this picture as like everything's chill cafe, sitting outside, taking your time not with coffee at all.
Oh.
And it's just fuel, all it is. And so I had some good, I had more that wasn't great.
Wasn't accommodated to your palate. Yeah, someone said if you walk into a restaurant and just go like that, the guy will see it and make you the espresso without you really even waiting. You can just literally, I want coffee, and they'll just boom.
No, that definitely could have happened, mate. And there's 100% a little bit of a barrier if once they knew I'm an American, so they naturally say, okay, I'll get you an Americano.
Which is an insult, which is so funny that everyone loves that here. And it's become like, oh, I love an Americano. It's not like the Starbucks menu, but it was a way for them to insult Americans who were putting water in perfectly good espresso.
Oh.
I know. Yes. But I didn't order, many Americanos for that reason. I'm like, no, I want
I'm going to be a local.
And I want a little.
Giuseppe and I are going to order the same coffee.
That's interesting, though. So you're saying that the meals, people take their time with the meal, but with coffee, it's not like sitting around having a conversation. It's just like
bing, bang, boom.
Get caffeinated and go.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I don't know enough about coffee culture, but I think like in America that has to like be started Pacific Northwest, a whole, like the culture of
the third wave. That was the third wave, they call it, right?
I guess. I don't know. I literally don't. I'm like, I thought it all started in Europe, and look at my ignorance. So.
It is funny how the evolution of coffee has changed culture. You think about like Seinfeld and like what a cafe was then, and how different that is to our modern coffee culture. Where anywhere you go, you can be at just the greatest third wave, craft coffee, pour over, single origin, whatever.
I know,
but not so much in Italy. Okay, so we've talked about your partnership with Beth. We got to talk about the other, significant. God just brought this partnership between you and Pastor Stephen, which also took place at college, right?
We met in high school.
Even beyond college.
Yeah, we played in bands together in high school, and then just stayed in touch. He went to a different college altogether, but it was like an hour from where I ended up going. He's from South Carolina. I'm from South Carolina. Our bands would play at this same venue in Charleston in high school, and so kept in touch. Graduate college, and I guess a year or something after that, they went to start the church. He started the church when he was 25. And then a year into the church, I got a call just to see if I could fill in. And, but I knew they had planted the church and had followed a little bit at that point. I was a part of another church plant at the time. But I mean, within a few months, Beth and I were moving up to Charlotte. So yeah, it is really special. The way God designed our paths and, the history, we've had through the years, both in like playing in punk bands, and even the basis of our friendship and relationships starting around music.
Right.
And then church plant days for Elevation for the first 5-7 years. He was vision caster, of course, for like the type of worship culture he wanted built here, but wasn't involved in the writing at all, which completely made sense in my mind. I didn't know another pastor that wrote songs.
Yeah.
Now it's almost impossible to think of him not
and then,
having the hand in it he has. Yeah.
Exactly. And so now it's like, oh my gosh. And
the world wouldn't have the blessing. I mean, let's just
right.
leave that there. Yeah.
I know.
I know, he says.
So
what did that process like? When did he begin to get involved?
Probably like maybe 7 years into the church or something like that. And man, I mean, honestly, not to speak for him, but we've certainly talked about it enough, and I've heard him describe it enough through the years. Like that was quite the process for him to find his footing and in writing, not as a songwriter, as much as like, I don't have a model for this. I don't know another pastor of a church that writes songs, and this feels almost like I'm being perhaps indulgent with this little side thing, and indulging myself or my love for music with something that I shouldn't be giving my time to, because shouldn't a pastor be giving his time to something greater or different? And it's like once he made it through those, I think, first few years, and just got more and more comfortable, and then it was like seemingly, it's never like this, but seemingly then a switch was flipped. It's like game on.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Yeah. Is it true? He told me recently, when you first tried out Graves in the Gardens, that you were pretty sure it wasn't, that maybe it wasn't gonna become what it became.
I mean, I've felt that about a lot of songs.
Oh wow.
Come to the Altar. We did that in church, and it was like, what are we doing? Like we've got this invitation song. Like what? This isn't gonna, and we've got to introduce that to the church. But it's not really gonna take off, because it's this weird blend of like Jesus is calling in the verse, and then the chorus is vertical, and the bridge is vertical as well. But like but I felt like that about a handful.
Wow, that's true. So Come to the Altar is Jesus singing kind of to us, right? Or I guess us to one another.
It's kind of like us to one another, like. And then it's the same thing. It's like the invitation is in the chorus. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. And then the bridge finally takes it more vertical. Oh, what a savior. But that was it was bizarre, because we didn't have a song like that. And Graves, to your point, I remember the song itself, the title alone, everything about it was so visceral and was so like potent,
audacious.
And exactly. And I mean, truly, as soon as the song was done being written, my memory is like, well, pastor was like, well, that's the title of the next album. He's like, of course it is. Yes, that makes perfect sense. Like now which is rare to have the title of an album before you've recorded the album. But it just made so much sense. And
as a concept, it was so visual.
Exactly.
And luscious. And
yep. Yeah.
You could already see people like scheduling time with their tattoo artist, when you say that phrase, which is true.
Yeah.
I got to introduce a guy in our team who was hosting at our conference this summer, and he's got the Graves in the Garden tattoo on his arm, and he's telling the story. He got to tell it to Brandon Lake, but basically it was playing in the room when his grandfather breathed his last, and he literally went into heaven with those words on his tongue. And then his heart beat I think it was 8 more times after that or something like that. So he has the tattoo graves and then the lyric, and then he has like 8 tick marks, basically one for each of the breaths before and just, again, I know that's humbling for you to hear. I don't mean to just throw that on you. That's a lot for anybody to hear, but I know how Brandon felt, and I know how Pastor Stephen would feel hearing that. Like, what an honor to get to be stewarded to so many precious moments for people, right?
Yeah. No, it is amazing. Thanks for telling me that. I think, man, y'all are. I was thinking about this earlier. Y'all are just some of the best friends to people, and obviously, like our friendship is kind of at a distance. Of course, like physically, but we're still, we've been getting to know each other through the years. But Levi, you've just been talking about, different things you and Pastor have talked about, or whatever story you've told him, he's told you. And I just think the world of you, both of you, because you're so intentional with your relationships, and the fact that y'all just were out 2 weeks ago for just to support Holly and reflect. And I've seen you. I feel like I see y'all do that all the time. I mean, to just love on other friends, and I just, honestly, it's such a great model for me, and even what I've experienced with y'all's friendship. But what I've seen, you're so intentional with what I've seen with your kids, and but anyway, I think,
So
Levi, you were so hospitable when we, vacationed out there the last 2 summers ago, and gave so much of your time, like finding us stuff to do. And it's our family's favorite vacation we've ever taken.
Levi's love language.
Yeah, but that's also
what you told me,
my
Jennie.
nerdy interior side. Like, that's not even that's like, I'd pay you to get to do that. I love that. You're gonna let me plan things for you? Yeah.
No, you're so kind.
Listen, I was just thinking, when there's this poem I read the other day by Wendell Berry, and he said, laughter is immeasurable. And I would think a friendship, like the kind of friendship you guys, from what I have seen, you give to others, and what I've experienced to some degree with y'all, that type of friendship is immeasurable too. The effects of a friendship like that. It's too good for the soul. There's ways I feel like it just nourishes, even when you're not around, one another, because you just can have a knowledge of, like, there's people out there who would go to bat for me, and have done that and shown that. And I don't know where where did that start?
Who knows?
Why do you value relationships so much?
Oh, I thought you were saying, where did the poem start? I was like, I don't know.
We live in Montana.
Yeah.
I think maybe we have to be a little bit more intentional with friendships far away. Maybe we feel far.
I mean, that's true. But I think God gives us. I think you have to listen to the Holy Spirit, and God. We can't have
it for
that with everybody, but God really nudges. Jesus did it. Jesus had people. He had 500. He had 70. He had 12. He had 3. I think God lets who are you supposed to pour extra relational care into. And I think about you. We knew each other, and we'd see each other when we'd come to Elevation, and we think so highly and care so much about Pastor and Holly and Elevation, and they've made such an impact in our lives that we prioritize showing up for those relationships that move the needle forward in our spiritual trajectory. And so I think about Impart and Code Oranges, and Inside Elevations, and just moments large and small where we've gotten to spend time together. We were grateful to get to be there for the first tour stop ever. And I had been telling Pastor Stephen that for years and years and years, he needs to tour. Because of course everyone knows the world wants to sing these songs with you and hear him preaching, and so
that's my point. It's like, I feel like a lot of people would say that and have the best intentions and be the kindest in saying it, but I mean, y'all show up, and I think it's just it's so it's not just commendable. It's just so refreshing. And I really meant it when it's like,
wow.
I feel like that there's some ways that it's nourished me, even watching you show up for others when I'm like, whether it's through social or whatever, I'm like, that just makes it feeds me. It does make sense, Jennie, that you kind of have to be uber intentional with where you live.
But it is also so fun when people come out, because we do love seeing people from bigger cities and, down in the dirty South or wherever else, coming to Montana and seeing the West and feeling the clean air and seeing the mountains and, seeing their kids and all that. And then, getting to push you in the cold plunge and all the different things that we get to do when we bring friends out here. And so that's been so much fun. But back to out of our love bromance, that was a really great special moment. I did. But I was going to say, when we were on the Outcry tour together, that was really where I felt like we took a step forward, you and I, in our friendship.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were on the Outcry tour and it was, Jesus Culture and Lauren Daigle and Elevation Worship. And then I was doing that Swipe Right talk every night. And there was many times where we ended up on each other's buses and just kind of hanging out. And my kids loved that and those moments together. I think we were playing like the Nintendo Switch and just late nights before bus call. And so and again, just watching God just continue to give you shoulders for the platform he was going to entrust to you, and from way back when there was a sweetness to you. We sat in Charlotte, chips and salsa with you and Beth forever after a Saturday night service at Elevation Worship, which by the way was a thing at one point.
Was a thing.
Was it Fresh Life as well? And maybe we'll go back when we're empty nesters, right?
Hey.
But then, knowing, man, there's just, you love, like you said, you still love the church. And there was that evident, obvious, you love the church. You love what God's doing. There's never been a sense of jadedness or cynicism that's crept into your spirit. So thanks for that.
Yeah. It has been, that's crazy. I hadn't thought about that Outcry tour in a minute, but that is where a lot of it began. I think, we were talking as a team yesterday, huddling in prayer just before leading for the 9:30 service, and I was just encouraging everybody with like true. This may not sound encouraging at first, but I was just talking about sometimes showing up, as we all have experienced and know, showing up to Sunday morning every 6 days, 7 days. It can feel routine and it can feel mundane and it can feel common. But I was commending everybody. Thanks for keeping, showing up.
Yeah.
There's a beauty actually in the common, consistent commitment of just this is local church, and we all experience some, Sundays that can feel like a mountaintop, and Sundays that feel just like the plains, and we're kind of trudging along. Sundays that we're actually barely making it. But what we find is just, people, the same people, a lot of times, that are still in our lives. And the worship set for, what I was sharing, like the worship set isn't always going to feel like a home run. And I think I used to feel such a pressure about the right songs for every week and the right people on the right songs. Please, please, please let it be the decision I make to do it. And obviously I pray through all of that, and we prepare for it, and we plan, and we want to bring our very best. But there is a beauty in showing up and just saying, you know what, I still lit the fire today. I still brought a sacrifice today.
Wow.
And whether or not I feel a rush of emotions is not my best indicator of whether or not it was a successful, day or beneficial or reward. Like, there's just such a reward in anchoring your life in, those who are planted in the house of the Lord will flourish in the courts of our God, staying planted. And,
Amen.
And, the Psalm 92 goes on to say they'll still bear fruit in old age. They'll still be fresh and flourishing. And like,
Yes.
what a good promise. Like, that's what I want 20 more, 30 more, 40 more years from now. It's like, if I make these common decisions every Sunday to just keep showing up, I'm building something special. That was kind of you, Levi. I just say, like, God's given me shoulders to shoulder things and carry things as the ministry's grown. But I think that's how you do it.
Wow. One day at a time.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you for sharing that. That is huge, and that's life-changing. And I love that you were encouraging your band with that yesterday. And I think that as we grow in that and that dependence on the Holy Spirit to lead us in the everyday, and like, that's where life change is. And that's how our shoulders become stronger, is just showing up. That's incredible. Thank you.
Okay. So where we left it was Pastor had just told you the concept was going to be Graves in the Garden for the whole record, but the song still, they got to take us in a little bit of that, because I think that's so fun for everybody who's enjoyed the music so much to hear a little bit of that. Oh, I don't know, because he said the way he told me, I think you did it on a Sunday for the first time, but he was not there. Is that right?
Yep.
And you texted him and you're like, not quite sure, or something like that.
Yeah, because it's got it's a different type of song as well. It requires, I think it of course requires such buy-in from the team who's leading it, but then it also requires a level of buy-in from the congregation. But I mean, anytime we introduce a new song, there's always they're staring at the screen trying to read the words for the very first time.
Right.
And that's not always the greatest feeling, to just watch people stare
blankly.
But they're trying to get the song. But yeah, I think more often than not, and in this case with Graves, I think I probably texted him, I don't know. I'm not so sure. And I mean, fast forward to, I think that was October. We wrote it in September or the end of August, and tried it a month or so later. And then we recorded it in January 2020. And we had probably done it 3 times in church, maybe, before the recording. And the recording is, what's on YouTube is what you see. It just took over. It was a freaking tidal wave.
Yeah.
There are some songs that whenever I hear them anywhere else, you'll go somewhere else and hear a song, but in your head, you are trying to substitute the little flourishes that are in the live version that aren't there. Pastor saying, Carrie, put another blessing on them, or Brandon, we got some more graves we need to turn over in this moment. We're not done yet. Like you're like a little let down when you hear it at whatever church, because you're like, no, we need that little moment. You kind of secretly wish the worship leader would throw them in there, even though it'd be completely perverse to do that. You're just so in love with the actual live version.
An authentic thing.
Wow.
Just copying. Put another blessing on them, Carrie. There's
no,
there's
Carrie.
not even a Carrie. Just makes no sense. Okay. You mentioned shoulders, or maybe I did, but then you did again. Are you still on your Athlete Next? You were the one who turned me on to that guy, that Jeff Cavalier. Are you still on that? I can't tell in your baggy jacket.
No. February, Beth and I joined a CrossFit gym.
No, you didn't. You didn't go to the dark side.
Listen, I went to breakfast with a buddy.
That's how it always starts, Chris.
Breakfast with a buddy.
Every person explaining how they're in that cult,
And I was intermittent fasting. This is January of this year, and I was like eating 4 hours a day at that point, just to do it.
You went 24. They call that the warrior diet.
Dang.
Yeah. So you're 20 fasted. So what would you do? 4 to 8?
No,
2 to 6?
2 to 6.
Okay, 2 to 6.
And
I liked that, actually. It was hard to me to get enough food in.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So and I didn't really pay that much attention, honestly, I was paying zero attention to protein, but Beth and I, we enjoy working out. We've done boot camp type stuff. I was running 4 miles a day for 5 days a week or so for a couple of years.
Wow.
And January was like, I'm going to hit reset after the holidays. I'll do this intermittent fasting thing. I'm at breakfast with a buddy. He's eating. I'm not. I'm drinking coffee. And he's got 2 plates, and he's not a big guy. He's like, he probably has another 20 pounds on me, but is like fit. You'd look at him and go, probably works out. Not like
not
he's in the gym, 6 hours a day or anything. But anyway, we were talking. He was like, well, I'm counting macros and I'm trying to like really put on muscle, whatever. You should come to the CrossFit gym. I've been doing it for 6 months. His wife been doing it for like a year. I'm like, I am not doing CrossFit. I will hurt myself. And I'm not
start wearing Reebok, all the things.
All the things. And anyway, he convinced me. He was like, just come 7 a.m. tomorrow and just check it out. You zero commitment. He was like, the culture is so good. Community's so good. I had a picture. It probably is an accurate picture for some gyms, CrossFit gyms, that was like, I can't do these movements. One, that they do, these Olympic style movements. 2, I'm not going to be throwing weight around like these guys do. So I don't need that in my life.
Right.
I'm too old to worry about what people think about me. He was like, I promise you, it is like the least like that. The coaches are going to tell you, check your ego at the door. You got to do light weights while you get the movements down, all this stuff. So anyway, that's, I went the next morning. I was like, actually, I really like the community. Beth started coming probably a few weeks later, and we've been doing it since. And, so, I mean, now it's just, I'm asking myself, like, how long is it before I get hurt? Cause I swear everybody that does CrossFit is like telling stories like, oh, well, yeah, at some point you're going to get hurt.
Well, I mean, you're going to need your rotator cuff done, but it's fine. It's not the box's fault.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know.
But has it been positive on your energy, food? Like what have you, like, what's your 6-month CrossFit review?
Worth it. I immediately started counting macros, when I did that, and started trying to get my weight and protein, and which I had never paid attention to. We love eating clean. We've always eaten, but I've never paid attention to how many like grams of protein I'm putting in.
Wow.
What app do you use for the macro counting?
RP diet. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's what we're
so
doing.
Great when you find something that works for you and that you actually enjoy, and it's not, because I think that sometimes that's the whole battle is like, okay, I know I should do something, but what is actually going to make me feel good and that's fun to do, and for you and Beth to do together? Like, that's, I was going to say,
she's already doing that Rocky Balboa chicken chasing, right? So that doesn't count.
She's got that into her routine. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I would like to say I'll do it for a while, but I will jump to the next workout routine.
Yeah. Same.
1 year to the next. I like staying active, so I'm going to keep it up. But I mean, I also need somebody to tell me what to do, which is why I needed Jeff Cavalier, Athlete X, in my life.
So good.
And you guys go to the same class at the same time, or do you guys?
We did through the summer, but I go to 7 still, and school year she goes to 9 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, this is very good. Okay, so this is
fascinating.
Very
stuff.
Good. Very good.
No, I'm always intrigued by that. It's November 8th, the day this is releasing, this conversation. You'll have just finished a tour leg, or is there one gearing up? Elevation Nights?
Yep. Elevation Nights would have finished about 3 weeks prior to this. And we're out in a couple dates in Florida, over to Atlanta, Knoxville, Birmingham, and then over into Texas.
On the tour that's done at this point.
On the tour that's done.
That's sad for people listening. Is there anything they can come to now?
Oh, yeah. February 2024.
Ooh.
We're coming to the Northeast. It's going to take me too long to find what cities, but if Northeast. You go to elevationnights.com,
yep.
You can find the cities there.
ElevationNights.com. You got to do it, people. Jennie and I have been to 2 nights, to 2 dates. We were at the first one, of course. Or I was at the first one, rather.
I went to one.
And then
DC.
we went to the DC show together, which was exceptional. Is this still the same? I mean, sure, it's evolving, but is it still the tour that's gone? Because have you started repeating cities yet?
What will have just happened in October will be the first time we've repeated markets, meaning like we're going back to generally the same places. That's 2 years apart. But I was counting, we did a rehearsal last week for tour gearing up, and there's 7 new songs that we have in the set that we didn't have 2 years prior. And obviously we've removed some just for everybody know this is not a 4-hour night.
Which is substantial. I mean, 7 songs is a good chunk of the night that's new.
Honestly, I was like, wow, when we went out the first time, we didn't have Same God. We hadn't released the album Lion.
Wow.
So we do Same God. We do Lion. We were doing Old Church Basement and of course Graves stuff. But now we have songs from Can You Imagine as well. And,
is Yahweh going to make it to the nights?
No.
Okay.
No,
That's a delightful song.
It's amazing. So
yeah. Okay.
Praises. Do you know
Praises?
that song?
Oh,
fantastic. When those confetti cannons went off, by the way, it scared the heck out of me. And I knew they were there.
No,
the whole
he
time.
literally was like, I bet there's going to be confetti cannons. And I was and then it scared me, and then it scared him.
I turned to her to tell her, I bet you during this song they're going, and they went just as my back was turned. So I jumped out of my skin a little bit.
Sorry.
Very good.
It's so good.
Well, we encourage everyone to get out to ElevationNights.com, get the tickets, and it will be incredible to hopefully see you there. Hopefully we'll bump into you at one of them, listeners, Luskos, as we call them. So Chris, thank you, and
Chris.
Beth, for your friendship.
We love you guys.
For your songs, for all the things, all the love. It just means the world. And we really loved getting to sit down and have this conversation with you.
Yeah.
Same. Thanks for having me. This has been a great way to spend my Monday afternoon.
All right, buddy.
Love you guys.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to swing by LeviLusko.com and JennieLusko.com to see what's going on in our world.
And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And in the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media.
Jennie and Levi Lusko, out.
Access more